I love the part, and you probably could attest to this too. While you're writing, and then all of a sudden, there's the connection from something you wrote earlier in the book, and you're not sure where it's going, but you're like, oh, that sounds good. And then later on, you're like, oh my gosh, this is why it's connecting. This is the part, this is the scene that I hadn't envisioned, but it makes sense from what I wrote in the beginning. So I just love finding those connections that feel kind of like they're inspired from somewhere.
Welcome to The Whole Writer, a place where we talk about what it means to show up as someone who's grounded in their voice, in their community, and in their creative path, even when the world tells them to hustle, compare, or conform. I'm Nicole Meyer, a multi-published author and book coach who believes that nurturing the person behind the page is just as important as refining the words on it. In each episode, we'll explore the terrain of writing life with honesty, warmth, and practical wisdom, creating space for you to write from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. Whether you're drafting your first manuscript or publishing your fifth book, you'll find conversation and companionship for the journey here. So settle in, bring your questions and your curiosity, and let's discover together what it means to write and live with authenticity and purpose. Okay, welcome listeners. I'm so happy that you're here with me. This is going to be a fun conversation, I can just tell. Today we have Annie Cathryn, and before we get into our conversation about all things writing and publishing paths and what I love to call our permission slips for everyone's author journey, I would love to read Annie's bio. Annie Cathryn lives by the motto, "Creating is living," and is the award-winning author of The Friendship Breakup and Eat the Cake. When not writing or reading, she's organizing her personal library by color and planning her next vacation. Annie earned a journalism degree and a master's in communication from the Marquette University and lives in Chicagoland with her husband, daughter, and 2 fur babies. Welcome, Annie.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. I'm so happy to be talking with you today.
I'm so happy you're here. It's so fun to connect. And also what was not in your bio, which I adore, is you are so amazing over on the Instagram community. You always bring people in, cheer people on, share all kinds of good, insightful nuggets. It just feels like you're a natural over there.
Thank you. I do have a marketing background, so I think that helps.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But you do it with total authenticity. It doesn't feel like marketing at all to me.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's my personality. I just love to promote books that I love, authors that I love. And I don't know. It does come naturally. Yeah, I adore it. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Good. Well, you have some exciting news. You have a title coming out in July, but I wanted to kind of expand on that and talk about your journey as an author. And we're going to take people back to the very beginning. So to people that aren't familiar with you yet, could you share a little bit about how you first fell in love with writing and what it was like landing that first traditional publishing deal?
Sure. So from the very young age, I already knew that I wanted to be a writer and author, but my career took off in the marketing world. So I was doing marketing writing. And then I always wanted to write a book, but I never sat down and tried. So my daughter, I said, when she goes into kindergarten, I am going to just sit down and start writing a book. So that's what I did. And I fell in love with book writing when I'm writing. So I was a pantster. Now I'm a little bit of a plotter, but I love the part, and you probably could attest to this too. While you're writing, and then all of a sudden, there's the connection from something you wrote earlier in the book, and you're not sure where it's going, but you're like, oh, that sounds good. And then later on, you're like, oh my gosh, this is why it's connecting. This is the part, this is the scene that I hadn't envisioned, but it makes sense from what I wrote in the beginning. So I just love finding those connections that feel kind of like they're inspired from somewhere.
Yes. Oh, I love how you put that, inspired from somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like a divine thing. It's just like it kind of downloads for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you started doing that and you realized, oh, I can write this manuscript, because writing a full length manuscript is a big deal when you've never attempted something that big of a scope, right?
So I did take some craft books and read some craft books because book writing is very different than other types of writing. And I fell in love with it. And I thought, okay, I finished a book finally. So then okay, now what do I do? So then I did a lot of research on literary agents in the publishing world and set out to find a literary agent at that point after I had a finished manuscript.
Just to interrupt you, did you show anyone the manuscript before you started querying?
That's the thing. I didn't know about beta readers and all of that. That was still foreign to me. So I did have some friends that I knew from the corporate world who were writers, and I did share my work with them. That was the only thing I did do. Fast forward, when I did get an agent, she did set me on the track of you need beta readers, you need other authors who understand. And so now I do that with my work.
Right. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I did not have any early readers for my first manuscript. And I wish I would have known. The information just wasn't out there back then. And now people just have so many choices of where they can get support. But back, I wrote my first novel in 2014. And it's like, good luck trying to get anybody beyond the gatekeeping to give you any help.
My first was 2019. So yeah, but I couldn't imagine in 2014. Yeah,
right.
Things have progressed so much since.
Right. Okay, so very exciting. So do you remember how many agents you reached out to before you got a yes?
125.
125. I really want listeners to sit with that for a minute because I have people who have, that I work with that have very strong stories. And believe it or not, someone will query 3 people and say, I'm done. I can't do this. And I'm thinking they need to listen to people like you that, went over 100 times you queried people. Were you getting a lot of feedback in the interim?
I did get 15 full requests. And I think I changed my query letter. I lost track of how many times I revised it. So I think, say for the first 30, I wasn't getting anything. So then I changed my query letter. And then I sent it out some more and I changed it again. And eventually it did get 15 full requests and 14 passed. And the 15th one said yes. And I did get some feedback and I did take into consideration what they were saying. But some of them were like, nope, it's not for me. And you didn't get any feedback. So I cried a lot.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. It's so relatable. It's so relatable.
Yeah. So, but I understand now.
Yeah. Part of that is just learning. You have to, unfortunately, like an actor or, anyone else in the arts, you have to have such a thick skin because failure and rejection is just par for the course. But when you're brand new, you don't know that. And you don't know what it feels like to get that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it was tough. And there were so many times I did want to quit, but I felt like it was my dream and I believed in the friendship breakup. And I think you really have to believe in the book that you're putting out there, because if you're not in love with it, then it shows and nobody else is going to be in love with it either.
Right. That's so true. And I think it's really overlooked that you have to love the story message. And first of all, the title is just one of those things that pulls me in right away. That's, I want to read about the friendship breakup because I'm a female. I've had so many different friend groups. And you have to believe in the message that people will get when they walk away with it by the time they reach the end. And if you don't, or if you can't even identify that, then you're already sort of on loose ground. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And actually, the friendship breakup is it's fiction, but it is based on something I went through. So that helped for my first book. I was very passionate about it because I felt like if I went through a friendship breakup, then maybe others would have too, and it might resonate.
Right. And you got a lot of positive response when the book came out.
Yes. And I had readers reach out to me on things that you write, and then you're not sure what the reception is going to be. And then I had people saying, oh my gosh, I blubbered through your book. It helped me with this friendship that I need to let go of and all of this. And I was shocked by the response, but it made me realize, okay, yes, this book needed to be out there because it helped some people.
Absolutely. It connected. And that's why we write. Okay. So I obviously adored the Friendship Breakup, and you had some lovely success with that. But I'm curious, we're going to pivot a little bit towards your upcoming title. Was there a moment that success or experience made you realize traditional publishing wasn't the right fit for your next title?
Yes. So I don't know if there's one moment. There was probably a series of things, but my sophomore novel this is not my sophomore novel that's coming out. I had written 2 other books before Eat the Cake, and the second one went on submission. Well, it went to the publisher that I was with, and we didn't get a response. So we went out on submission. That book sat on submission for 2 years. We did not take it off. And it did get, 26 publishers, imprints requested it, but nobody, they were like, I don't know how to market this type of thing. So then in the meantime, I wrote 2 more books. And then when I finished Eat the Cake, I just didn't want to go through it again. I said, you know what? I had a goal in my head that I wanted a book a year. Now, that's very aggressive. So I might not even do that now. But I was like, oh my gosh, my career is stalling. I've sat for 2 years. 2 years.
I know it.
And I've written 3 books. So I just said, I'm doing this myself. I believe in Eat the Cake. I actually believe in this book more than the other 2 that I had written prior. And I said, I'm just doing it because I have control of the timeline. And it really did come down to the timing. I said, I can't sit on this anymore. This needs to get out. So that's pretty much it.
I love that you're being so transparent about that. And I want to share with listeners a little inside baseball because I've been through this myself. Just because you have an agent doesn't mean they'll be able to sell your next book on submission. And I know from my personal experience that your sophomore novel, if you're with a big traditional, your sophomore novel will be accepted based on a few things that are wildly out of your control. You have to have incredible sales figures for your debut, because a lot of times I was told that the book proposal goes to the marketing board before the editorial board in some cases. So marketing's deciding if they can sell. And also they're looking at what's selling in the market right then. So because a book doesn't go on, your sophomore deal with a publisher doesn't mean it's anything you're doing or not doing. It's really, to me, oftentimes out of our control. And it happens to, I'm going to say this, the majority of author friends that I have. You switch publishers because of it. You switch paths. And I love that you said I was losing time, because I remember my agent saying to me, sometimes it's better to just keep having books come out there so you can keep the momentum going. Because if you take many, many years off, it actually can hurt your career. So I'm just sharing a little bit of my experience, but I can relate to what you're saying.
I'm glad you said that, because even I didn't have a clue that was really what has happened in the industry. My perception, my expectation was, oh, wow, I had a book published. It's traditionally, now it's going to be easy. It's going to be a smooth ride because I already have this under my belt and I'm going to get another deal. And I was blindsided when I didn't. And I'm glad you said there's all different reasons, and it doesn't have to be put on the author always. It's what's going to sell, what the publisher thinks they can do. And having that perspective is really good, because then you're not feeling down on yourself if there's outside factors.
Right. And you know how to write a book. You know you have an audience that really resonated with your story. So part of what you probably didn't know, and I'm putting myself in your shoes, is, holy cow, now I have to open a small business and learn how to self-publish a book.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about that. Did you just do a ton of learning and asking questions, or what does that look like for you?
Okay, so I am like a decade person. So in my 30s, I pivoted my whole career and did something in my 30s. In my 40s, I pivoted the whole thing. And then I just turned 50, and my body just knows. It's like, you're done. You're done waiting. You're done. You're going. You are taking control. So I turned 50, and right then I got on the horn and I got a website. I started a business. I did like it all in one day. I was like, okay, this person's going to do my website. Here's my LLC. I just went full force. And then I set a pub date and I just went. And then
you are my kind of woman, by the way. Like, I so love all of this.
I was like, I am not sitting on this anymore. So this was the best part that happened. I had met some women through the Women's Fiction Writers Association, and she knew that I was going out on my own. She literally emailed me and said, I am going to take you under my wing.
Oh,
I am going to mentor you on everything.
wow.
I could not believe it. And she's like, I want to see how it works in this because she's thinking about starting a business. And she's like, I just want to see how it goes and I want to help you. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
wow.
That's incredible.
And we hopped on a few Zoom calls. She shared her screen with me. She shared some spreadsheets with me. And she held my hand through the whole indie publishing process. And man, it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I thought about quitting that too. Don't get me wrong. I did think about it, but every time I felt like quitting, I called her. So,
wow. That feels like such a gift at the right time. You know, I often think that if we have to force a decision, it's probably the wrong decision. But if things line up, almost like miraculously, it feels like it was meant to be.
Yes.
That's really cool.
And I want to tell listeners that it wasn't easy. It's not easy. Some people will say, okay, it's easy. I figured it all out. I wasn't that person. It wasn't easy for me to produce a book. There were a ton of things that went wrong with timing, derailing, but I was so passionate about getting this out that I just kept going and I figured out the solutions. And every indie author who I've talked to has come before me said, yes, it's a learning curve, but it will get easier as you in your next book. You just have to realize that it's not going to be smooth. And it wasn't smooth. So I just wanted listeners to know that just because you go out and indie publish doesn't mean it's all going to be like
a piece of cake. No pun intended with Eat the Cake, because that's your title coming out. But could you give an example of one thing that was actually surprisingly easy and one thing that was pretty difficult when you started this whole thing?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the difficult because I think that has the most impact on me. So formatting a book. I thought, oh, how hard can this be? I'm just going to download Atticus or do their platform. I spent like 10 hours on a Saturday trying to figure out how to do it. And then I just said, I can't. I need to hire somebody. So I asked my author friends who we used, and I found someone that was reasonably priced. And I was like, that is worth it to me. So I don't have to do that. Another thing that was hard for me was the cover because okay, I recommend if you're going to go out, you should hire somebody who knows what they're doing with covers.
Yes.
And I didn't know. I thought, oh, it's just design, whatever. There are like measurements involved that
right.
You have to have the exact measurements. So I would say hire someone who knows the measurement type things. But
so did you hire a book cover designer?
The people that I used, they were amazing. And as far as the image, their illustrators, it was just beautiful. But the measurement part was like tripping everybody up. And because they didn't know about the platforms like Ingram Spark and Amazon, they're different size covers. So we kept going back and forth. And eventually I said, you know what? I love the cover. I'm giving you credit for this cover, but I need to hand it over to someone just to resize so that we can get it on the platform. So lesson learned, I could go back to the people and say, okay, I just want you to design the cover and then use a different person for the measurement. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, the cover pops for sure. And it's so in line with your brand of these like really great, what I call feel-good stories. And I think it's great.
Thank you. Now you asked me what was easy.
Yes.
I think for me, just because it's my personality, it's easy for me to promote.
Yeah.
I know a lot of authors do not want to do it, but I am going to tell you that unless it's like your best friend or something, nobody's going to see your Instagram or your social media all the time. So you just have to feel like whatever you post is going to reach a new person. And that is what happens. They push the logarithm out to all different. So you might think, oh my gosh, people are going to be so cringy thinking I'm promoting and they're going to get annoyed with me. And I say, let them get annoyed and they can unfollow you, they can block you, but you have to be your own advocate. And I recommend that everybody does it and just think, hey, this is going to reach a new person each time you post.
Yeah. And I want to put something in there for listeners is that the reason it works for Annie to self-promote is also because she began years ago as being an incredible, what I call good literary citizen, which means you engage with other writers and readers. You cheered people on, you shared your story. So I think that that's what works for you. If you would have come out, guns blazing and no one knew who you were and you kept saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, that would have turned people off. But you do it in a way that really is authentic and it's almost like you're sharing some exciting news with a community you've already built.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because that is how I started. I started as a bookstagrammer and back in 2019, I didn't even know that existed. I started getting on Instagram and then I saw all these people posting books. And then I said, I love books. I can do this. And then I just started promoting other authors and reading a ton. And I think that one of the main reasons is I wanted to read all these authors, but I was like, oh, my budget. Ugh. So I'm like, if I build up my community, maybe the publishers will give me some books. So it worked out. And then I just promoted people and what I loved. And I just love to do that. And yes, that makes sense. So then when I start promoting, it's easier. Yeah.
Well, I love that. Okay. So fast forward, I know your book is coming out in July, but let's kind of share with listeners, because you've actually shared a little bit on Substack, a really good punch list of sort of the biggest benefits or the draw to you of being an indie publisher or indie author, both. So can you share a lot of those? Because those were so eye-opening to me.
Yes. So a lot of it is about you could curate your own creative team and you don't have to rely on a publisher to pick the editor that you want, the formatter, people who are on your side who you enjoy working with. You get to curate your own team. So I love that. The timeline is big for me. You get to pick your pub date. You get to parcel out, okay, how long is it going to take me to do this? And you just keep moving and you're not waiting for others. You are waiting for the people that you've asked to help you, but it's different because you can follow up directly with them, not sitting there like, where is this?
Right.
So I love that. And I got to pick my pub date, which works around my family's schedule. A lot of times you don't get to pick your pub date. The cover, it was totally in my control, had my vision. I actually did I asked my followers, I did 2 covers, which one do you like better? And they chose the cover. And some publishers do that, but that's rare. And I wanted to do that.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah. And then the whole marketing. So you can see behind the scenes your numbers in real time. Whereas, so my publisher, I only got a royalty statement 2 times a year. So I did not have any clue what the sales were. And you can adjust your marketing strategy based on how your sales are. So I love that too. I think that there was some more, but I don't know how much time we have left. So.
Well, no, but those are all really important. If someone's not gone through publishing before, they don't realize most of us didn't pick our covers. Most of us didn't pick our titles. We had no idea. I just had a friend who had a book event last week locally. And I remember one of the questions was people said, oh, your book's out. Like, how's it doing? And she's like, I have no idea. And my publisher probably won't tell me for 6 months. So you are floating in the dark. You have no idea. Yes, you can read your Amazon ratings, but it's really hard to know how many books you're selling.
Yes. I still don't know for my first book how it's doing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So for authors that are listening, emerging authors are listening, thinking, well, maybe I should reconsider which publishing path is right for me. Do you have a little bit of a tip or advice for them, guidance for them on how to choose which path is right for them?
It came down to how I felt and how I wanted to move forward and take control. And I'm a career author and I knew that I wanted to have a book come out more often than I was seeing. So you just have to look at your goals. Are you willing to wait? Because a lot of times you might have to wait. Is your personality, do you spiral if you don't have communication? Like I spiraled. As much as people say, go do something else, my mental health could not handle the waiting. But if you can handle, if you're fine, then maybe traditional publishing is for you. If you don't want to do any of the production work, if you don't want to deal with sizing covers and formatting. So those are all things to think about. And I don't know, hopefully that answered your question.
It absolutely does. And I think the biggest standout for me is you would like to put out a book a year. And that makes so much sense. I mean, I have seen so many indie authors do that with great success because you are feeding the craving of your audience to keep those stories coming rather than every 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Okay. We've built all this up. We're talking about the behind the scenes, but let's actually talk about Eat the Cake. So your book is coming out. Tell us the exact date.
It's July 21st.
Okay, July 21st. And it is lovely. I have gotten the pleasure of getting, first of all, customized. I love the note you put in the beginning of my early copy of your book. I'm so excited.
I was wondering how that turned out.
It's so cool. It's so special to me. And I'm not quite finished, so don't ruin the ending. But it is a story about love, grief, finding unexpected hope. So could you give the listeners a little taste of what inspired the story and what the story is about?
Sure. So Leah Wright is a podcaster and she gives pep talks to her listeners and they call in and she gives some really good advice. Well, she had unexpectedly lost her husband. So she's a young widow and she tries to hold it all together for her listeners. And she's just spiraling and she doesn't realize it until she has an on-air meltdown and pretty much yells at a caller. And then her sponsors start pulling out. And some that are staying say, listen, we understand you've been through this, but you really have to take some time off and grieve and get your act together. And then she comes across an itinerary when she's cleaning out her late husband's belongings, and he had planned a trip to Florence for her. So she ends up going to Florence. And it's just, I don't even know where it came from. Like I knew the friendship breakup came from an experience, but this is nothing about my life. It just was a story that came to me and I just started writing it and I fell in love with it. And I hope readers love it.
Oh my gosh, they will. And it's a fun armchair read or armchair travel read. And there's a scavenger hunt involved too, which I thought was really clever.
Yes. And yeah, her husband plans a scavenger hunt for the trip and she's freaking out about the scavenger hunt throughout it. And yeah, so I don't want to give too much away, but it was fun to write. But it also, people who have read it have said it's not just a beach read type thing. It has some emotional depth to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And your writing voice is one that really invites people in. So I feel intimate with your character just on page 1 and moving forward. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we've talked about your book and how you got there and everything, I know people are probably eager to follow you and figure out where they can find your book. So share with people the ways they can connect with you.
So my favorite social is Instagram, and you can find me at Ms. Annie Cathryn. I'm also on Facebook. I have an author page. I am on Substack. You can find me under Annie Cathryn, and I do have a website, but I really enjoy Instagram, so you can find me mostly there.
Great. And then if they want a link to your book, where's the best place they should go?
So there's bookstoread.com/Annie Cathryn, and that has all the places you could pre-order my book.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I know you've inspired people to look at their publishing path and figure out what best fits them and their next title. This has just been a joy to talk to you, Annie.
Oh, it's been wonderful. I'm so glad you invited me onto your podcast, and I hope it's helpful for the listeners.
It will be for sure. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on The Whole Writer.
If you want to check out my coaching programs for fiction writers, visit NicoleMeyer.com. That's MEIER. And if you like this episode, I'd love you to take a minute to leave a rating and review for this podcast. This will help more writers like you to discover the show and to get going on their writing journey. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, happy writing, everyone.